We've gotten 5 Return of the Living Dead movies over the years, so let's rank them. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm ranking all 5 Return of the Living Dead films from worst to best. We got some good ones and we got some stinkers in here, so we're going to get into it. Just make sure you drop your ranking down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future rankings. And we're going to get right into this and not waste any more time. Let's rank them. So easily coming into last place at number 5, I'm going with Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave. Now, this is a sci-fi channel movie. This and Part 4, Necropolis, and they're both pretty damn bad, I'll tell you right now. But this one of the worst zombie movies I've seen in my life, if not the worst. It is just so cheap. It's a direct sequel to Part 4, right? The way this movie starts is the same way the last one ends, so it's a continuation. We get the same cast back, you know? All supposed to be the same characters, but yet none of them remember anything. They don't seem to realize what's going on. It's like, you guys just dealt with zombies in the last flick. Like, it doesn't make any sense. This and Part 4 were both filmed in Romania and parts of Ukraine, and you could totally tell half the cast has these strong, thick accents where they're supposed to be American, and it's just like, man, it's just a terrible movie. Really cheap, really low budget. The worst effects in the franchise is this film. I was getting ready and kind of excited for the whole rave, you know? It's called Rave to the Grave, but yet that only really happens in the last 15-20 minutes, and it's nothing special. It's pretty damn lame. Another thing that could have been interesting is that they take the chemical or whatever matter from the trioxin barrels and make a drug with it, and people start taking it and they call it Z, but it just slowly turns them into zombies. It's like, there's a good idea in there, but the execution is so off. Just a terrible movie through and through. God awful acting, terrible characters with no development, not very good effects. The best effect is probably the Tar Man in this one, and it's still nowhere near the 80s version, so a terrible movie through and through. Oh, and lastly, this movie tries so hard to be funny. It's not horror at all, basically. There's very minimal horror in here, and it's all basically a straight up comedy, but nothing lands, nothing's funny. It's cheesy, corny, and not in a good way, so yeah, last place. Coming up next at number 4 is Return of the Living Dead, Necropolis. Now, this is the other sci-fi channel movie, and it is pretty damn bad as well. Like, this one is still only like a 1 star, but the other one was a half star. But yeah, this one is just, when I was watching this, I'm like, damn, they're going so serious with this, and for this being a really cheap movie, they're going way too serious and not having any fun. But yet, they tried having too much fun on Rave to the Grave, but their idea of fun is not the same as mine. But yeah, this one, it was just trying to be too much like a straight up horror movie, and it didn't work in that department either. It's just a very bad movie that kind of tries to replicate Resident Evil in a way. It's about this corporation, something like Umbrella, and they deal with everything from food to, you know, supplies, and they also deal with getting rid of zombies and they experiment on them and whatnot. And these guys have to break in because one of their friends gets kidnapped by them, taken by them for experiments. So these group of teens go in and try to rescue him, and it's so ridiculous. They're like these dirt bikers or whatever, and they even bring their dirt bikes to the place, and they get in through the sewers, and they're riding their dirt bikes through the sewers, and it's just so dumb, man. The zombie effects are decent for a sci-fi movie, channel movie, you know, for this type of movie, a low budget, they were pretty good. I have to admit, the zombie effects, didn't mind that. Soundtrack's okay, but you got songs like I Stand Alone, which is meant for the Scorpion King by Godsmack, so weird. You also got Cold Machines by Alice Cooper, but they really have no right to be in this movie. It just seems off. they have a good idea with taking the main guy's parents because they have supposed to have died in an accident, but you find out they're in this facility and they make them like these almost like cyborgs zombies. Like one guy got two miniguns, the father, and the mom has like blades on her hands and shit. I was like, cool ideas, but you don't get to see anything cool with them. As soon as they show up, they pretty much get taken out right away, and you don't get any cool kills or nothing with them. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, this movie it's a bad movie. It just seems much better than the last one I talked about, but it's nowhere near the next few movies in this ranking. This one has all the same problems as Rave to the Grave in regards to the bad acting, bad characters, cheap sets and everything. Also, you got those Romanian accents in here again. Movie tries so hard to be American, but it's just not working. So yeah, another terrible entry if you ask me. Coming up next at number 3 is Return of the Living Dead Part 2. An okay sequel to the original. Doesn't quite live up to the original in any way. It really pales in comparison in pretty much every department, but it's still kind of good enough. I still have a good enough time watching this. It's still fun at times. It just feels a little childish a bit. I guess it's because our main lead is a kid in here and you're following him, so it kind of feels like PG-13 style horror movie until we get to the zombies, and the effects and the gore in that is still there. That's what makes it R-rated, but the main story and everything is very like PG-13, you know, which is okay, but it's not what I want in a Return of the Living Dead film. And the zombie effects, the makeup, and the gore actually looks pretty decent in here. But yeah, the characters are just all forgettable except for two. And it's funny, we get Tom Matthews and James Karen back in this film, even though they died in the original. And I like that they're kind of self-aware a little bit. Like when zombie stuff starts happening, they're like, I feel like we've done this before. And like they're having deja vu and stuff. I thought that was kind of clever, kind of funny. Because most of the other jokes and stuff in here, only half of them land. They got me like rolling my eyes, but the other half are decent. But this movie definitely leads too heavy into the comedy and kind of leaves the horror at the door. It's still there, but it's just not really strong. I mean, some scenes like Michael Jackson as a zombie in that, it's just like, come on, that's just too foolish for me. The movie can have fun, but I mean, sometimes it's just a little too goofy. But yeah, a decent film. Like I said, everything's just not quite as good as the original, even like the soundtrack and everything, but it's decent. Coming up next at number 2, I gotta go with Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Now, this is a very overlooked, very underrated gem. It's not a masterpiece or nothing. It's just a really good flick, really good zombie flick. Much different than all the rest of these films in this franchise. It kind of stands on its own. It's kind of this Romeo and Juliet kind of like relationships type story mixed with zombies, which is very interesting. Almost like a Pet Cemetery style in there as well, because bringing back the dead, right? But it just has a really cool style to it. I love the characters, especially our two main leads that are in love. You really connect with them, and it shows that they have a strong relationship before all shit breaks loose, right? And she ends up getting killed in an accident on their motorbike. He brings her back to life with the trioxin, and she slowly starts becoming a zombie. But I like the progress of her becoming a zombie. It takes a little while. She slowly starts losing it, but her love and her connection with her boyfriend is so strong that she fights it off for a long time. But eventually the hunger starts getting to her, and it's really cool because she starts mutilating herself and, you know, causing herself a lot of pain. And she says she does this to forget about the hunger. It keeps her from eating brains and going after people. And I just thought that was so different, especially coming off the original, where the zombies explain that they eat brains to get rid of the pain. So kind of a double-sided sword here. I just thought it was really cool. And there's a whole awesome transformation scene in here where she just goes all out, putting glass in her and metal in her under her fingernails, and she looks friggin' badass. And she ends up fighting off these Latinos in the sewers in one scene, and it's just so cool, man. That's probably my favorite scene of the whole film, and she looks gorgeous and badass and friggin' demented all in one. But yeah, what makes this movie work is really the relationship between our two main leads. It's so compelling, and they did a really good job at that. The director was Brian Usna, I think his name is, and he's really great produced Reanimator and directed the sequels to those. So, but this is probably his best film, if you ask me. Pretty good music to this one too, musical score and everything, cool effects. I especially like the zombies near the end, like that one Mexican dude with like the long neck and everything. They're like experimenting on these zombies. Pretty damn cool stuff. The only thing I have to say negatively is probably the set designs, especially at the army base, looks incredibly cheap. Besides that, everything else is pretty damn good, especially for this not being a huge budget or anything. I think they did a really good job, and you don't really notice the budget aside from a couple of the set pieces because the effects are great, the acting's pretty damn good, and I love the characters. So this one is definitely one you should check out. If you haven't, it's worth a watch. But for me, easily coming in the first place is the original Return of the Living Dead. This is one of the most fun zombie movies ever made. It's so 80s. It's just dripping with 80s goodness, man. What can I say about this film that hasn't already been said? The music is freaking phenomenal. Great soundtrack on here and musical score. When the music hits in at the start of the movie, when the barrels first break open, the trioxin, it just gets me pumped for the rest of this film. It gets me hyped up, you know what I mean? Great characters all around. Half of them are like these blue collar working characters, and it's interesting to see how they deal with the situation. And then the other half are like these punks, these young adults who are driving around hanging out in the cemetery and everything, and you get to see how they deal with the situation, and it's just very interesting all around. Freddie and Frank are so hilarious together. James Karen and Tom Matthews, they sold it on this one. It sold the roles completely. They're so funny, a little over the top at times, but they make me laugh so much. Very quotable too, especially from Frank. You get so many great lines from him. What else? Like it's like a place where you'd want to work, this medical place, because I just want to hang out with Frank. He seems like such a cool dude to be your supervisor. You know what I mean? And when zombie shit starts happening and you really get to see them struggle and not know what to do, it's just so fun to watch. Like I said, it gives you that blue collar side of the story. And then you get the punks. You got like Suicide, who seems to be the only like true punk the group, who really hates his life and hates everything, and everybody's just using him to get rides with his car and stuff. He's just so funny how no one gets him. And then you got Trash, the fan favorite, played by Linnea Quigley. She's friggin' fantastic in this. A real standout. I mean, she gets naked in the cemetery and dances in acid rain. What more else do you want? It's just so cool. Such a awesome popcorn flick with moments like that, you know? And then she eventually becomes a zombie, which is even cooler. Oh, the comedy really works in this film, and it's balanced out so well with the horror. They really work hand in hand. One doesn't try to outdo the other, but this is definitely a horror movie with a lot of comedy elements. It's not a straight up comedy, that's for sure. Great effects all around. Love the zombie looks. I like how different the zombies are. They're not your typical Night of the Living Dead zombies, which they find out in this flick. That's another thing I like. They're like thinking how to kill them. They think a Night of the Living Dead film right away, and the rules don't really apply here. But yeah, I like how the zombies are like can talk in here, and they use the paramedics radio and call for more backup. Send more paramedics, and then later send more cops, and it's just so fun, so funny, bizarre at times, but it works. We get a really cool zombie in the Tar Man, and the way he moves and the slimy effects and everything on him are just friggin' phenomenal. Really iconic character there. And I think that's one thing that most of these other movies in the franchise lack, is they don't stand out as being memorable aside from part 3. This one definitely has a bunch of memorable scenes, memorable characters, memorable music. It has it all, you know, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. That's the best part. And it's just so fun to see this movie unfold. Zombies take over and everybody running for their lives. I like the Mortician too. I think he's a really cool character with his tracksuit and everything. He seems to be the most level-headed and the most... He relies on science and stuff, and he understands when he has to sacrifice himself for the greater good, you know. And he's another great character. This whole film is full of them. They're all so fun to watch. Even the ones that are more one-dimensional, some of the punks, they're still fun to watch, you know, because there's so many of them and just the whole punk style to them. So yeah, this movie definitely has a lot of style, a lot of popcorn funness. I don't know how else to say it. It's directed by Dan O'Bannon, and he also wrote the film, known for writing Alien. I mean, maybe that's why this film is so good, but I absolutely love it for everything. It may not be a masterpiece, but it's pretty damn amazing if you ask me, and it only gets better on rewatch. And this is one of the most rewatchable movies ever, so even if it only was okay to you the first time, keep trying it out. It might click with you better on the next run. So for me, this movie has to be in first place in this franchise. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 5 Return of the Living Dead films. Hope you enjoyed it. 3 of these were pretty fun. 2 of them, not so much. And we'll never return to those Sci-Fi Channel movies ever again. I'm telling you right now. Unless I really have to, but it was a chore to get through those 2 films. They were so bad. But the other 3 are definitely worth a watch. I hope you enjoyed this. You can follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd. Links to those are always in the descriptions of my videos, guys. Like I said, drop your ranking down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, guys, thanks for watching.